Canada is and always has been our country. And we want Canada to be a true north that is as strong and as free as it can be in every way that matters. The best country in the world.
Hello. So today I'm just going to be going over the Donbass Regional Airport map that I've been working on, just to show that the project's not dead, that there's been updates made. I'll probably be looking to release it sometime after V12 drops, just so I can bring over the new gameplay aspects that that's got without causing any issues. So I'm just going to go over a few of the caps now. So the first cap that I'll go over is the Western Industrial Village. It used to be built up quite a bit, like you see in that image there. Decided to scrap the industrial aspect of it just because I thought it looked kind of stupid being half village and immediately switching over to an industrial complex. With that change, I've just added a couple extra structures around the outside. You'll recognize them from Al Basra, just the little compounds there on the right. I've got a similar one just below the camera, you can't see, that's overlooking the cap. The extra things that I've added, I just wanted it to look a bit more lived in, so I've been adding clutter to some of the structures inside. I've added 2 sets of trenches on the western side, just to give it more of a currently being fought in sort of feel. And you can move in from the west or the south end of the cap and have fairly decent cover when you're going in. This section here is the first completed sort of neighborhood that I've done that I'm happy with. I'll probably go over each of the other sections of the village and just go over I like that it's got like varying types of walls and things like that. It doesn't look so generic and cookie cutter, so I'm hoping to give that look to the rest of the village there. And I'm much happier with how this has turned out so far. So this next one is Metro Mining Corp. It's just going to serve as like a middle cap point. I've switched it over from the last video. It used to be 4 structures from the Eastern European assets that you couldn't get into, and it kind of looked ridiculous having that big of an area that was inaccessible, so I decided to switch it out to 2 structures from, I think they're from Mestia or Yeho. You can get to the 2nd floor, and on that eastern structure, on the 2nd floor, you're able to set up and get a view of parts of the terminal, so you can hit entrenched guys that are dug in at the terminal here. I added a trench just through the middle of the parking lot there, just to help with an overall approach so you're not just in the open with a couple of vehicles. But it's a pretty basic cap point at this point. So the next one is the terminal, which has been a great source of frustration for me, given that I lost all of my terminal progress when I did a system reset and it didn't carry over the shared asset folder, I think it was, or the merged asset folder, so I lost the entirety of the terminal. I'm currently in the process of trying to get one of these done up in Blender as its own separate standalone model, but for now I'm just kind of piecing it together with stuff that's already within the SDK. I think I like the first version of the terminal a bit better, but this coming into the second one, I've just got a bit more experience with the editor as a whole, because the first thing I ever did in the SDK was try to build that first terminal. So my goal for this one eventually, after I get a couple of playtests down and I ensure there's no major game-breaking bugs with it, I'd like to try a layer with the first floor being a cap and the 3rd floor being a cap, just to really throw everybody together in that spot. I'm hoping it doesn't quite turn into something like Operation Metro, which wouldn't be the best, but we'll see how that works. I had to rebuild the destroyed parking garage as well, and I'm thinking about doing that one in Blender as well, just because it kind of looks shoddy at the moment. I think I like this second version of the parking garage a bit better than the first. It's just been a bit frustrating having to rebuild all these major parts. I've just added in this sort of blown out dugout here with a couple of extra pathways that are covered towards the terminal. But I'm hoping also to add a couple of new V12 assets that I've seen that look like they'll really mesh really well with this area. So this eastern cap, after going over it a few times, I wasn't really a fan of the large ruined area that I had there. So I went in and I replaced that side of the road with two large warehouses. Going back to what I said on Metro, I was a big fan of just being able to fight from within structures, and just having that rubble pile was just kind of garbage in my opinion. I switched it out to a single apartment structure as well, which, if you get to the top floor, will have overlook on the northern part of the airstrip, as well as some of the eastern edges of the terminal. So you can set up a scout there and just indirect fire and things like that. This cap should be pretty fun, just given that it's surrounded by forest and it's got a couple extra militia dugouts that I've put in there. So that one hasn't really changed too much aside from that destroyed building. So this eastern office cap on the side of the map has turned into one of my preferred maps that I like, or caps that I like working on. I've switched out a couple of the structures to the 2-floor ones that you see on Gorodok with the roof access. I'm thinking about building something, rigging something up to have a walkway between the two rooftops, and then to be able to gain access to the rooftops with a couple of ladders. I've also updated the east edge of the map, or the cap, with this little command post and trench system. This was the first trench that I had worked on, so I was using this just to figure out where sheet metal sort of makes sense to put in and what looks a bit more less conventional. I've gone through and redone the terrain near these brick structures. It was really uneven and bumpy, and it didn't make a lot of sense. So I've gone through and redone that. So what you see in this image right now is probably going to be the entirety of the cap zone. I've also been working on a reskinned militia faction as well, so I can do militia versus militia. So this is the beginning of the People's Militia that are Russian supported, so they've got a lot of more modern equipment, as well as bits and pieces of Russian camouflage. So my hope is to do militia versus militia and just have a really slow moving, like tracked based teams with more MTLBs, the T-72s, that type of stuff. Just because that's the aesthetic that I really like when I was picturing this map. So thank you for watching. I will hopefully have this one out within a few weeks of the version 12 drop, just because I want to bring over all those new gameplay mechanics to this map. But it's pretty much ready to go as of right now. We're just waiting on that new version. So thank you.